It's the fear of failure. It's not the fact that they can't do it. Everybody can walk across a 12-inch plank, one side to the other, right? And get their $20. Put it at the top of 2 skyscrapers and nobody will do it. There's no difference except the difference between our ears, right? The only difference is what's between our ears, and that's the fear of failure.
Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting show, the About That Water podcast, where we help the Samwich generation build strong financial habits so that they can talk about money, spend money, and enjoy their money with confidence. Today, I have somebody who is really going to take you to another level and provide an amazing resource to your financial journey. His name is Mike Cobb, and I cannot wait to get to his story and share with you all the exciting thing that he's done over the past 14 years of just enjoying life and really helping out others. So how you doing today, Michael?
I'm good. I can't wait to tell you a little bit about myself.
Go for it.
No, I'm just messing with you this morning. Goodness. No, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me, Anthony.
No problem. So what is it? What is a cool financial tool that you found along in your journey that has really helped you out see finances a little different?
Yeah. Right out of college, I read this, my alumni magazine came, and in it, there was this, one of our alumni, I feel horrible, I don't remember who it was, but there was a full page, kind of a picture with this tiny little quote in the middle by this guy. And it said, don't try to, gosh, I wish I could, the second part I remember, strive to be outside the competition, right? Strive to be outside the competition. And I thought that was a very unique way of describing how I was already beginning to understand how I wanted to live my life and the kinds of things I wanted to do. Robert Frost talks about the path and the woods diverged, and I took the one, least traveled, right? And it has made all the difference in the world. And I think these concepts are really important. If we run the traditional road, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, I think most people with their investment should run the traditional road. Stocks, bonds, cash, whatever. I mean, that's normal. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, right? I mean, but if you have all of your eggs in that basket, then you are missing opportunities that, people teased me forever. I have bought gold and silver for 40 years actually. Yeah. And every year I just buy a little bit, right? And, some people, out there like, oh, Cobb, you're a gold bug, or you're, whatever you are, right? I'm like, no, it's just an alternative asset class. As that's what it is. It's just different, right? It's outside the normal investing. And, and it's gone up, but obviously now in the last few months, I mean, it's gone crazy, right? And I was one of the early owners of crypto. I bought crypto early on. Sadly, I missed the really early on. I had, opportunity, but I think maybe we'll talk about that later. But outside the competition, outside the norm. And people say, oh, Mike, like I'm so straight down the middle. Good. You know what? Keep 90% of your investable net worth down the middle of the road. But you know what? I think you need some outliers. You need some stuff that's outside the competition, outside the norm. And, sometimes people talk to me about the large investors versus savvy investors. I don't think you need to be a large investor. I don't think you need to have millions and millions and millions of dollars of investable net worth to be a savvy investor, right? And I think there's a powerful distinction there too.
Yeah, and I was striving to do something that nobody else does, and that's scary. So how is somebody like you, as a brave soul, as you will say, decided that, you know what, I want to see things a little differently, because the way how things are going just doesn't seem right with me.
Yeah. Well, look, I think there's Nike, just do it, right?
Right.
But I think but I think there's if you want, look, you can like, hey, I've never hang glided before. I think I'm going to go jump off the side of a mountain with a hang glider. No, not just do it. That's just dumb, right? But hey, I want to learn how to hang glide. So I'm going to take lessons. I'm going to do it on little, and then finally maybe I could go jump off a big mountain and hang glide, right? So the point of just do it isn't just go all the way to the end point and do it, right? I think it's it's preparation, it's research, but we can get caught with analysis to paralysis. So we have to be very careful about that. And so one of the things, here's some advice I give people. Our business is all in Latin America. And sometimes people, I see them at conferences, I speak at a ton of conferences. I literally see, I don't know, 8 to 10,000 people a year at conferences. And I probably speak to 10%. I probably speak to 1,000 people a year in person, maybe more than that. Actually, I should look at that, but in person at conferences during breaks, before it starts, because I want to understand what people are doing, why they're doing it. And it helps me focus my business to serve them, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to sell somebody anything. I want to have a product that serves what they want. And the only way I do that is by listening and learning and asking a lot of questions. And so I do. And sometimes people will say, Mike, what should I do next? And I can tell that they've kind of gotten to this point of analysis by paralysis, paralysis by analysis point. I say, look, here's what you should do. It's January right now, right? It's January. So yeah, I'd say, listen, buy plane tickets to Panama in October. I said, just pick a week in October right now, go on Kayak and buy your plane tickets for October 5 to 12 or whatever it is. Just buy them right now, today. Come on, let's do that. Open up your phone. Let's go to Kayak right now, right? Buy your tickets. I said, I guarantee you that you will go to Panama in October. But between now and October, you have 10 months to figure everything else out. So you set this we're going to do it. But right. And so I think that kind of advice, not very many people get their phone out and they all tell me they're going to, but here's the sad thing, Anthony, this is what breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. They're at a conference. They've flown there. They've spent money for the hotel. They've spent money for the conference. I might have seen them at 2 or 3 conferences. So they're spending money. They're doing all this research, right? Mm-hmm. And they're missing out because of fear, right? Here's there's a great analogy, right? If you took a 2x12 plank, right? 12 inches wide, 2 inches, you lay it on the floor and I said, hey, walk from one end to the other and I'll give you $20, right? Pretty much everyone would stand up from the conference, come up front and collect their $20, one end to the other. If I put that between 2 skyscrapers and said, now walk across this thing, I'll give you $20, probably nobody's doing it, right? It's the fear of failure. It's not the fact that they can't do it. Everybody can walk across a 12-inch plank, one side to the other, right? And get their $20. Put it at the top of 2 skyscrapers and nobody will do it. There's no difference except the difference between our ears, right? The only difference is what's between our ears, and that's the fear of failure. So, I look, and we should never do this with a lot of money. I always tell take 10% of your investable net worth. If you were to lose 10% of your 100% of it, it all goes away because you made really dumb decisions or bad decisions or whatever it is. Would that kill you financially in any sense? And if the answer is no, well, then you know what? Take 10% of your net worth and do things that are outside the norm with it. But do your research. It's not like you're going to the top of the mountain and jumping off with the hang glider. No. Do your prep, do your due diligence, do your research, but then do it.
Yeah. And I love that analogy of just really getting out there and doing it, because I think what happens is that risk factor just seems a lot higher. And because I could see you going from the floor straight to the skyscraper. Yes, that's, you need some levels between it. Get 4 feet off the ground first.
Sure.
Collect your $20, and then you build up to the skyscraper. And I think that's what it is you're helping them build confidence through competence, because they're actually taking that time to actually build up the knowledge of their weight balance, the wind coming, they're going through the motions. I
like that. Thank you for expanding on the analogy, because you're right. It is a competence to confidence progress, and that's right. And that's what you really want. You want to be competent, right? You don't want to fall off the board. You want to collect your $20.
Right. It's very important. Sometimes that reward be you want me to go to new heights now, but it's but I also need that $20.
It's a long way down. So,
right.
But it is funny because, the other thing that really, that I just wrote an article and did a podcast this week on this. I've written many articles about it, but this is a podcast. It's called Risk versus the Perception of Risk. And another analogy, that again, people perceive investing overseas or outside their home country. I always say outside their home country because I don't know who's listening. You might have some German people listening, right?
I do. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's outside of Germany for a German, right? It's outside Canada for a Canadian. Outside, anyway. So if we invest outside our home country internationally, there's this perception of risk, and so here's the analogy I use. Look, lots of people text while they drive. We know we shouldn't, right? But we'll text while we drive, and I have the data for 2022. 271,000 people were injured or killed in a car crash in the United States from distracted driving, which basically means texting. 271,000 people killed or injured in 2022 because of distracted driving. So think about these people that drive to the airport, they're texting like crazy, then they get on the airplane and they're like, yeah, I'm afraid of flying.
Right.
47 people were injured in airplane accidents in 2022. 1,000 people, no problem, texting on the way to the airport, getting on an airplane, right? The fear and the perception of fear are so radically different. And what's powerful here, Anthony, is that the difference, I love investment conversations because we can use investment words, right? The difference between risk, which is maybe low, in fact, in many cases low, and the perception of risk, it's in Central America, right? Okay. That difference right there is arbitrage. It's arbitrage. And arbitrage just simply means a gap of information, right? And so when you have this arbitrage, you have risk, which could be low. Not all investments are low, but many are, right? You have low risk, high perception of risk. You have an information gap called arbitrage. And that gap is money. That gap is money. That's where the action is, man. That is where the action is when you're outside your home country, especially in the developing world. And so, risk, the perception of risk, very different things.
So going back to getting that plane ticket.
Yeah.
What was your first plane ticket to say, like, you know what? I want to learn investing. This is the reason why I want to learn investing, because I was on this vacation. I was like, I stayed at this place and I just need to be able to live here.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It almost exactly happened that way, Anthony.
Really?
Yeah, yes. I went to Belize back in 1994 with a buddy of mine who's a lawyer. He was going there. We'd like to call him one of the good lawyers. He works for clients setting up doctors mostly, setting up asset protection trusts to keep them from getting sued by ambulance chasing lawyers, right? So, yeah, right. Yeah, it's just incredible. Anyway, so he does a lot of work in the Caribbean because they're great financial service locations, jurisdictions, right? And Belize being one of them. So anyway, so we were down in Belize. He did a day of work, and then we stayed for a couple of days to go out to Ambergris Caye, little town of San Pedro, just farting around, having fun, whatever. And we started looking at some real estate, right? This is way back in 94. I was in the computer business in the DC area and the DC metro area where you are. And so I said, dude, next time you come down, let me know. I'll come with you. So I went back, a couple months later, and he did some more work and I did some more research and finding some properties. And we bought 2 oceanfront condos in 1994. In Ambergris Caye, you're gonna just 2-bedroom, 1,000 square foot oceanfront condos, $80,000.
Oh, you said both?
$80,000, man, $80,000. Yeah. So actually, the guy wanted 100, and it's part of the story. So he wanted 100. He said, "Look, can you?" Joel's a great negotiator. He's a lawyer, whatever. And so he said, "Look, if you'll make a full payment, basically wire me the money, I'll let you have 2 of them for 80 apiece." So we did that. We bought them, right? So whatever. There's 3 other buildings kind of beside us in construction, and over, I don't know, 6-8 months, we're down there, maybe once every couple months or whatever. And nobody's ever working on the buildings next to us. Right. And so his name's Jim, the developer. We're sitting by the pool. Jim comes by, we're chatting. We're like, Jim, what's the deal, man? Why don't you work on these buildings? Obviously, you build buildings, you sell them. That's how you make money. Right. Here's what he told us. And it goes to a very powerful set of concepts. We don't know what we don't know, and we have to forget what we think we know when we go outside our home country. So what he didn't know was that there was no mortgage money, And the assumption he brought with him was that if somebody came off the beach and wanted to buy one of his condos for 100 grand, like the guy from the US or Canada is thinking, I'll put 20, 25, 30 down and I'll finance the rest, right? Good. Whatever. The buyer's thinking I'll go to the bank and whatever. Well, no bank in the DC area is loaning anybody money on a condo in Belize, and no bank in Belize will lend a foreigner money. And so what Jim didn't know and what the clients didn't know was there was no financing at all. And so Jim had to finance the sale of many of his condos if he was going to sell them, right? So Jim's sitting on a ton of paper. Like he would get as much down as he could, 30%, 40%, half down, whatever. Interest rates were 12 to 14%. I mean, this is back in the mid 90s, right? And so we're sitting by the pool and Joel looks up at Jim and he says, hey, Jim, would you sell us your paper for 80 cents on the dollar, like 20% discount? I'll never forget Jim's face. Joel asked the question, Jim goes, yes, just like that. I mean, he goes, yes. And like there was no pause, right? That was our very first business in Central America. A mortgage company was born in 1994, sitting by the pool in Belize. Joel went back and talked to a bunch of his doctor clients. I went and talked to a bunch of my computer buddies. We raised almost $3 million, about $2.67 million. We put that in and we started buying mortgages in Belize. That was our very first business. And it morphed into a bank. So now I actually own part of a bank in Belize. Still largely. Cool. Yeah, it is cool. We're a mortgage company. We serve clients. See, this goes all the way back. What is needed in the marketplace? Money. Liquidity is needed in the marketplace because no bank in Belize is lending money to a foreigner, and no bank in the US is lending money on collateral down south, right? So we built a mortgage company, we turned it into a bank, and we've been a bank now for 23 years. But that led to our development company, which was how do we build North American product? Because I would go into these houses and these condos and I would go, wow, this thing is built like so well, right? Concrete, rebar, hurricane. But the light in the bathroom is back here, so my face is in a shadow, or the countertop's too high or too low, or there's. I remember one case.
No standard.
No standards, right? And just crazy stuff like one outlet in the living room with outlet strips and extension cords to outlet strips to run power around it. And Joel and I are talking, and we're like, we can fix all of this for free. Like for free. It doesn't cost any money to fix. Well, outlets are $10 a piece or something. But I mean, like de minimis, right? And so that was the genesis of our development company, which started in 96. And then in 1999, we read an article about reforestation projects, and we bought a cattle pasture, a slash and burn deforested piece of the Darien jungle in Panama, 100 acres, and we planted 100 acres of teak trees, which are now being harvested as we speak right now. And we built a sawmill over the last couple of years. So we're really in 3 different businesses in Central America, banking, finance, development, and then now timber. But, each was sort of an evolution of an opportunity that we saw. We did the research. I spent 2 days at the Library of Congress. This was long before Google. This was 1998, but long before Google. I spent 2 days at the Library of Congress reading, getting my hands on every single book about teak and teak farming and teak management. So that when I went, not because I thought I could know anything about it, so that when I went to Panama to interview forestry management companies, I had really good questions and I kind of could maybe make sure their answers weren't BS, right? Yeah, right. I didn't pretend to know anything about how to manage a forest, but I needed to be able to ask really good questions and know if the answers I was being given were legit, probably. And so again, that's the competency part, right? And so you don't just climb to the top of the mountain and jump off. You work your way up, or you take whatever it is. And so that's the evolution of our businesses in Central America, and they all really came out of service.
Yeah, I might have to take a trip to Belize and check out one of these properties, because I was like, it's cheaper to fly to Belize than it is to go to Florida, which is sad.
Correct. Oh, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm like,
you might stop in Florida on the way to Belize. Take planes. I know, it's silly. Yeah.
It's crazy. And then you know what? Because I heard a lot of people do that. They'll just actually pick destinations and just drop off midway just to kind of shaft the airlines.
They do. Be careful, because if you have a return ticket and you don't complete the first leg, They may cancel the second leg. Yeah, you got to be really careful about that. But you can buy one-way tickets and do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lesson learned. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Travel hacking and house hacking.
I might have done that once or twice.
Hey, it's $1 billion industry. I'm sure they're okay.
Yeah, right.
And also because I have so many questions about the different legs of the business, but for the sake of time,
Sure.
and I'll be respectful of your time, is that, granted, I mean, a lot of people that are listening, or the person that's listening right now is like, okay, well, that's great that you had 80K back then. But they was like, hey, you already have this established business. They took the trip to Belize. They had a panty ripper while they sitting there on the beach. And they was like, I actually want to own one of the condos here. Do they then reach out to you guys and then be like,
Yeah,
let's work something out?
right. So we have product for sale, and so people can take a look. We have a Marriott resort under construction right on the water in San Pedro. We have some very livable condominiums off the water called the Grand Bayman Gardens, about 3 blocks off the water. And the price differential is insanely different, right? Because it's the land value. The cost of construction's, you're boating a Marriott, it's probably a little nicer finishes, right? But at the end of the day, your major differential between on the water and off the water is the land value. And so there's tremendous value to have a home off the water. And if they're interested in one of our products, great. Love to help them out. If they're not, I encourage people to go down to Belize or Panama or Costa Rica, wherever, take a look around and just start to sniff. The thing that I would highly encourage, and we call it, by the way, we call it margarita madness. Maybe I'll change it to panty ripper madness.
There you
Is
go.
yeah. Don't buy anything. Leave your checkbook at home. Leave your checkbook at home. If it's your first trip, maybe even your second trip, leave your checkbook at home. I didn't buy our condos to the third trip, right? And it was over about a 6-month period. And in that 6 months, I did a lot of comp research. I did a lot of research on the developer. Just the second trip down, we thought we were going to buy them, and we were negotiating the price and all that kind of stuff. But I spent a lot of time talking to other people on the island, just sitting at a bar. Hey, what do you think of this guy? Right? Like, because you got to do your due diligence on the developer too, right? And so anyway, so don't do it your first trip. Probably don't even do it your second trip. Spend a few months doing real due diligence. By the way, self-promotion. I have a book, but I'll give it for free. Anthony, anybody who emails me and just says Mike's book in the subject line, I will send you a coupon. You can go to Amazon and download my book for free. How to buy your home overseas and get it right the first time. So if anybody's listening to this, they're thinking about an investment overseas. It could be a home, a property, but it could be investment, because the book is a due diligence guidebook, handbook on how to do due diligence outside your home country. So I'd love to give that to anyone who's listening, who's thinking about this. And then, Anthony, one other thought, just, the one thing we did on the timber business, which was truly unique. I mean, we talked going all the way back to strive to be outside the competition. If you wanted to be in the timber business, and this is really true still, except for very few cases like ours, you have to have millions of dollars. It's not hundreds of thousands of dollars. You have to have millions of dollars to go buy big tracts of land and either plant them in trees, but you have to take care of the trees for, 20, 30, 40 years, however long it is, right? And so this investment class, this class of investment, timber, has always been a powerful wealth generator and wealth stewarder for the big, huge families, right? The Ted Turners, the Malones, the Seagrams family, the people who own the Seagrams in Canada, right? Harvard, Yale, they're in those endowments, put lots of money in timber. And so you've got these giant family offices and giant endowments and big institutional hedge funds, and they do timber because timber is a phenomenal investment. The problem is how does a small investor, savvy small investor who looks at it and goes, I want to be part of timber. How do I do it? I don't have millions of dollars. We basically took our very first, we are now on our 6th teak plantation. Wow. We started 27 years ago with 100 acres. I think we're now up to maybe 800 or 900 acres of teak. And we've literally served thousands of folks because we took our plantation and we broke it up into quarter-acre parcels. And so somebody can actually buy, own with title, physical title. You get title to quarter-acre or buy 4 of them for an acre, whatever it is, right? But you get title, you own the land, you own the trees, and a quarter-acre is under 9,000. I think it's like $8,600 or something. So but call it $9,000. For $9,000, somebody can own a quarter acre of teak, the land and the trees, and that turns into a little over $100,000 in 25 years.
Wow.
And 25, right? It does. People
Yeah.
get,
It's a long-term investment.
it is a long term. Think about it's on a paycheck. 1 month if you're a landlord, a quarter or a year if you get dividends from stocks, right? So you got 2 weeks, 1 month, 1 year, but 25 years is also a cash flow cycle. And the really savvy big investors, family offices, hedge funds, I mean, the guys that take, hundreds of millions of dollars home every year, like
Yep.
these big investors, savvy investors, they've always known it. They've always known that timber. I mean, going all the way back to the Catholic Church, when they were going to build a cathedral, 1,000 years ago, the first thing they did was they went out and planted oak trees. And 100 years later, they cut them down and started building their cathedral, right? I mean, like Catholic Church, the wealthiest institution in the world by far, right? I mean, like you don't build wealth 2 weeks at a time on a paycheck. And you really don't build wealth you can on rentals, right? And that does build wealth, right? Two ways, the cash flow and the asset value, right? And stocks. But you know what? Big wealth, big wealth is in these, outside the box, outside the competition asset classes. And timber is a big one. And so now folks, with our program can actually own teak timber for $9,000. I mean, like,
Can't beat that. Yeah.
Right.
Like, all right, so why are you doing this? Like, because I see the passion, like it's exciting because, when you start making money and everything like that, making money is fun. But why are you doing this, like, to your sole purpose? Like,
Thank you.
What's the crux?
Great question. Right. Two reasons. One, I grew up middle class in Northwest Pennsylvania, and stocks and bonds, right? Stocks and bonds, cash, not very much of it. My family did all right. We had food on the table, so great, middle class, right? But I really looked around and I saw just how you could build wealth, right? And with capitalism, just pure capitalism, doing the right thing, serving others. Zig Ziglar says, if you help enough other people get what they want, you can have what you want, right? And so my earliest career, right, was true sales, and it was computer sales in the DC area, and my philosophy was always serve. If I help enough other people get what they want, I can have what I want, and so the idea of service first is really important, and I love the fact that our business serves the middle class consumer. We've always been our mortgage company. Rich people don't need my bank, right? They
You
just
can
write
just buy
check.
right out. Right?
Rich people don't need my development, because if you have $1 million or $2 million to drop on a product, be rest assured it meets every U.S. standard. It's $2 million condo in Cabo San Lucas. You'd get the same thing in Los Angeles or wherever, right? San Diego. But if you have $150,000 and that's what you have to spend on a home outside your home in Belize, for example, in our gardens, right? 150, 175,000 bucks, right? Like, you're going to compromise in many cases. So how do you serve a middle class consumer, give them all the standards that they expect for a price that they can afford? So, like, to me, and then same thing with the timber. How do you make a timber investment that would be millions of dollars? How do you bring it down, to $9,000 so that many middle class people can actually be a part of this wonderful opportunity? And so each of our businesses, and I would say that's half of the sole purpose. The other half of the sole purpose is, let me use our timber example, right? Our sawmill. So we grow the trees in the Darien province. It's like a state. Think of a U.S. state. It's called a province in Panama. It's the poorest province in the country. It's largely agricultural. There's still a lot of subsistence agriculture. Large indigenous population, unemployment is high. The infrastructure sucks. The road to get to my plantation is brutal. Like sometimes it's 2.5, 3 hours, and sometimes it's 5 hours, right? I mean, because of how bad the road is, right? So you got people who live out there, and they and it's men, because this, I hate to be sexist, but I mean, but it's what it is, right? The men go get jobs in Panama City. Maybe they come home every other weekend to see their family and send money home, right? So we set up a sawmill. And I love it, in the little town, which totally by chance, but this is the way of the universe, man. It's so beautiful. The town that we ended up buying, village that we ended up getting the land to put our sawmill on, is Mundito, which is Little Earth. Mundito, little world, little earth, right? And so we call our company Little Earth Teak, right? Which is great. But we've created today, right now, we have a provisional sawmill up, and we're in the process of expanding it right now. We employ 17 people in this area, that like 17 real jobs, cash paying jobs, not subsistence agriculture, but year round cash paying jobs. Like, that's actually a big deal in this state, in this province, right? And so now you've got 17 men, right? I think we have one woman there, but 17 men who don't have to go live somewhere else and work somewhere else. So like, the sole purpose, like, we are doing really good things to leave the places that we do business much better for the people around us as well. And, and it all goes back to capitalism. It all goes back to capitalism, because, how we make money on the teak. Yeah, we make a little bit of money on that initial $9,000 parcel, right? There's probably, I don't know, I think we make about $3,000 when we're done paying commissions and planting it, maintaining it, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's $3,000, which that's not a bad margin. I mean, 30% is a decent margin, right? But how we make our money is we get 20% of what we generate for the owner in 25 years. And so, yeah. So in 25 years, right, we're going to make $25,000, $30,000, because the owner's going to make $110,000, and that's what they get. That's sort of all of our projections are net. You invest $9,000, about $109,000 will end up in your bank account after the processing and after we take our piece, which is going to be $25,000. So you know what? If instead of making $100,000 for the investor, I can make $200,000 by taking our sawmill and taking their lumber, taking their log, turning into lumber, making chairs with it or whatever I'm making.
I see where you're going at. Yeah.
And we can make $200,000 for them. I make $60,000.
Yeah. Sign me up, right?
But they make 200. I make 60. Like, everybody wins. But we're keeping the value in Panama. Right now, about 95% of all the teak grown in the country, and there's a ton of teak grown in the country, goes to India. They cut it up into lumber. They turn it into furniture. They ship it back across. So all the value add happens in India. That's fine. Good for the Indians, right? But this province of Panama, what we call home for our business, we want to bring all of that value add right there to Mondito, and we are. So the sole purpose is twofold: help the middle class access investments that you really can't access as a middle class person generally, right? And bring real, lasting, sustainable value to the communities that we work in, and make a difference there. So kind of two things, Anthony.
I like that. So coming up on the third segment, which is, we talk about the skills and habits that kind of take yourself to the next level. So, what areas of improvement that you're doing right now for yourself, just to kind of improve your lifestyle? What do you think what you plan on doing?
I'm probably not a good example of that, the honest truth. I probably work too much. But I love it. I do. I love it. I travel a lot. I work a lot, because I love what I do, because I'm mission driven, right? I'm mission driven. What I would call the front burner mission is build our business and, do what we do, right? But then that mission driven piece, because of what we do, there's this bigger benefit. And, I believe so much in what we do that I have to say, I don't really, actually, my joke is I only work 2 or 3 days a year, right? Those are the days I wish I was doing something else, right? But, like, right, I'm not working, but I'm talking about our business, right? But I'm not working right now, and so I probably am not a good example of balance in that sense of, I consciously understand it. And so, I am trying to back off a little bit, but I love what I do. I love the outcomes, both for our investors and for the communities that we work in. And quite honestly, there's very little time that I would rather be doing something else. And if I catch myself thinking that I would rather be doing something else, then I go try to do it. That's the honest truth. And then I'll try to go do it. But I'm not a good example of balance.
That's fine. I mean, and there's a reason why I love this part, is because it kind of gives into, since the future is not written yet, and you get to kind of chart that path on, like, what, it would be nice if I could do this, or it would be nice if I got rid of some things or something like that. So yeah, I like this.
I don't know. You know what? I feel pretty good. I have very few regrets in life. I have some remorse. I spent a lot of time on the road away from my daughters growing up. And I think the difference between regret and remorse is you feel bad about something, but if you had to do it over again, you would still do it. I would still travel as much as I traveled because, and I think my daughters understand this, that, that dad is out doing really good things for other people, right? I am a servant, right? I believe that I'm a servant. And I think my daughters, I hope they understand that. I think as they get older, they're 21 and 25, I think they're starting to understand I do these things. I did these things. I do these things, and I will do these things because it matters. It matters a lot. And remorse is feeling bad about what you did, but probably would still do the same thing again. Regret is very different. Regret is if I had to do it over again, I would do it different. And I've got to say, Anthony, I only really can come up with one regret in my life. In 10th grade, I had to take typing class. This was back in, what would that be, 1980. Right?
Okay.
And I said to myself, I am never going to need to know how to type. So I didn't pay attention. I didn't do anything, right? And I'm like,
Right.
So anyway, yeah.
That's cool. Now, do you plan on leaving leaving your business to your children, or is this something that you like, the succession planning?
Great question. My business partner is bringing his boys into the business. And so there is sort of what I call familial succession planning on his part. Mine, no. My daughters are both ballerinas. I think that we're shareholders in our businesses. I don't think that they really want to work in the business, but obviously the stock that we have as a family in our businesses, will become theirs someday. So yeah, succession planning in the organization is very different. Yeah, Joel's bringing a couple of his boys in, but they're young. I mean, they're in their early 20s or mid 20s. Anyway, no, we have done a great job of building up the second generation of leadership. I heard you call it the sandwich generation. I
Yes.
never heard it. We have a bunch of sandwich generation people, he's mostly, and maybe I think a couple of the very early 50s who are the ascendant leadership within the organizations to run it long after I'm dead and gone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I like that. So you ready? Is there anything you want to say before we dive into the final four?
No, just I hope people will request a copy of my book, Anthony. If you're thinking about any kind of investment that's outside the home country, please, 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 my gift to you is to give you the coupon to download the book. That's the only, like, of all the things that I hope to achieve from being here today, other than a great conversation. This has been fun. Is that some folks, decide that they want to, because grab a copy of the book and maybe follow the path less traveled, right? Because it will make all the difference in the world. I promise you, it really will.
Yeah, I did plan on doing some traveling later, and I did some earlier already. So I'm like, I would actually like to have a property out here. I just didn't know the process. So this is now my research to make that happen.
By the way, send me your mailing address, and when I get home from my trip, I'm on a trip. You can see the hotel behind me here. I will personalize a book and physically mail you a hard copy.
Thank you.
My thank you to you for having me here today. Yeah.
Yeah, anytime. All right, so you ready for the final four?
Yes, and I'll make them quick because I know we're tight on tight.
It's okay. Number one, what does wealth mean to you?
Wealth means understanding that I am blessed and counting my blessings every day for what I have. That is wealth, right? That is wealth. Knowing what I have and being grateful for it.
Number two, what was your worst money mistake?
Not buying, I alluded to this, not buying Bitcoin when it was like, I don't know, 20 cents a piece, 30 cents a piece. I was at a conference, and still a very good friend of mine, Paul Rosenberg, said, Mike, you got to buy Bitcoin. And back then I had no clue. I was like, I'm too busy. Yeah, 20, 30 cents. Biggest money mistake, not figuring out how to buy Bitcoin, way back when. Yep.
Number three, is there a book that inspired your journey or changed your perspective?
Yeah, Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand.
That's a great book.
Phenomenal book. Yes.
Number four, what is your favorite dish to make?
It would be pancakes.
Nice. Okay.
Pancakes. My mother-in-law had a little recipe book, and she would make pancakes for us. And she's since passed. So what I'll do once in a while is I'll get out the recipe. But I know how to make them. I know how to make them. But I get out the recipe card, I set it down, and anyway, she and I spend a few minutes together once in a while making pancakes.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And I miss her. I don't know too many son-in-laws would say that.
Well, that's true.
But I do. I miss her. Anyway, yeah, pancakes. Harriet's pancakes. That's it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. Very last question of the show.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about you?
ECIdevelopment.com is easy. You can do Mike.Cobb or info@ECIdevelopment.com. Just subject line's great, because when it comes in either to me or to the info, Mike's book or information about Belize or Panama or information about teak or timber, just use the subject line because if it comes in to me personally, I will see it, Mike.Cobb@ECIdevelopment.com. If it goes to our info, then our IT guy's a traffic cop, and he'll make sure I get what's supposed to come to me. Yeah.
I like that you call the triage person a traffic cop.
Yeah. All right. Yep.
Well, thank you, Mike, so much for coming on the show. This has been amazing. For those of you, anytime, because I would love to learn a little bit more about each industry at this point now that I know that you, in so many different areas, can go on so many different paths with this. But I have to say, for you who are listening and you haven't decided to make the chance, this is your episode. So go ahead on and just email Mike, tell him hey, I would like to get a free book, and just start making it happen. Because you got to build your confidence so you can have the confidence to buy your first property. And let's make it happen. The outside the norm. All right.